Hello everybody, Razorblade Mango here. Let's talk about Final Fantasy 15. This video has been a long time coming. Like, I've been kind of waiting for the right moment to do this, because the way I make videos is I don't like to talk about something unless I'm, got like a spark of passion behind it. Like, there are just some things that probably you guys want me to talk about that I just cannot find the enthusiasm to fucking click record and start talking. Like, basically my thoughts on it can just be summed up in a tweet or something like that. But this is one of those cases where it just annoys the shit out of me. Final Fantasy 15 annoys the shit out of me. Like, fuck Final Fantasy 15. Okay? Like, the game itself is not good. Okay, in my opinion, it's not good. It's very mediocre. Actually, fuck that. It's kind of crappy. It's kind of a crappy game. It's one of the worst Final Fantasies ever made. And yet, for whatever reason, Square Enix just can't let it go. They just they just have to constantly just be coming up with all kinds of brand sponsorships with it, and new DLC, and paid DLC, mind you, and everything, and I'm just so fucking tired of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of Final Fantasy 15. I'm sick of seeing it in every fucking headline when I wake up in the morning. I'm sick of seeing new promotions and deals for it when I wake up, like, every month. Like, I feel like every month there's like a new headline about Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 announces 4 more DLC packs into 2019. Final Fantasy 15 has a new pre-order bonus with Microsoft where you get fucking Gordon Freeman from Half-Life on the PC version. Pre-order now and you get a Sims 4 pack for Final Fantasy 15, which is just... Oh, the Assassin's Creed Festival. How could I forget that? The Assassin's Creed Festival, where you get to go to, I forget which city it is, and it basically, you're playing as an assassin from Assassin's Creed in a fucking Final Fantasy game. It's just so fucking stupid. Like, it's like, look, I know the point of it is to be stupid, but it's just, it's like, come on, Square Enix, just let this shit go. And I plan to write a script for this, okay? I plan to, fuck it. I'm just gonna go off script here, because this is so frustrating to me. Like, Final Fantasy 15 is one of the biggest wastes of potential, in my opinion. I think it has everything going for it. It's got the next-gen hardware. It's got Yoko Shimomura doing the music. It's got a brand new team doing it, and it's like, it's got some of the, I think, the scenario writer behind like Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 8 and all that. And yet, to me, at almost every point, it just squanders its potential. And I think part of the problem is that they just didn't have enough time to fully develop it. And they just decided to, like, cut out major stuff and have it be released as DLC. Like, I was getting pissed when they were showing the trailer for episode Ignis. I believe it was Ignis, where the one with the glasses, where he fights with Luna's brother in, Altissia? I think that's the city. I can't even fucking remember these cities anymore. That's the city with the big Leviathan battle. And there's a big fucking part of that battle that is not there in the main game. But lo and behold, look who Ignis just happens to run to in his DLC pack. Oh, one of the big supposed villains of the game, or anti-heroes, or whatever the fuck, who appears so briefly in Final Fantasy 15, like the regular game, that he's not even worth being around. And even though he's like this long drawn out boss fight, it's like, who the fuck is this guy? Who are you? And yet here he is, popping up. Oh, time to fill in the story gaps. Here we go. So they gotta do that. And it's so fucking funny. In every moment in Final Fantasy, like with the 3 characters, the 3 side characters, with Gladio, Ignis, and Prompto, all 3 of them fuck off for a certain period of time. You got Gladio going off to do something with the general, or whatever the fuck his name is. You've got Ignis going off to do something during the Battle of Altissia, and you got Prompto, who got knocked off the fucking train, who's got to do something. Again, all 3 of these DLC packs, the paid ones, they fill in the story gaps. So this is what frustrates me the most about Final Fantasy 15, is that there is a story there. They have hyped up to no fucking end this Final Fantasy 15 universe. That's like the anime and the Kingsglaive movie and there was like a pinball game that came out or something, the main game, and then after that you get the DLC packs and you get the Comrades multiplayer and you get the Assassin's Creed Festival and you're getting like 4 more DLC packs after that. It's like why wasn't this in the main game? I know this is like, you know, the obvious answer is, well, they broke it off to you know, make more money later. Yeah, that's basically what they did. Or they just didn't have time to put it in the main game, which if you didn't have time to put it in the main game, like, why the fuck are you releasing it if it's an incomplete story? Like, they basically admitted it, that the story was incomplete by releasing a story patch. They had to patch in extra scenes, and now they're like further patching in stuff for like things like the final 2 chapters and like some of the other stuff in there, some of the other like plot holes that they have to smooth over, some of the other missing scenes they gotta smooth over, and it's just a fucking mess. Like, if you didn't have internet access and you bought the game, what was on the disc was a fucking mess. It was a mess. Like, I would argue objectively, it is a mess. It is missing key scenes. It is missing big plot revelations, big explanations, and it's just not there. It's there if you buy like the extra little bits of DLC on the side, or you wait for it to be patched in. But again, if you don't have internet, you're fucked, right? You're fucked. There are very few games that I can think of that do like story patches or whatever. And you know, to be perfectly fair to Final Fantasy 15, I will begrudgingly admit that, you know, one of my all-time favorite games does it too, Witcher 3, where, you know, they have the expansion, they have the 2 expansion packs, enormous fucking expansion packs, and then I think in like one of the other patches they put in like extra scenes before the battle or something. But even without those expansions, even without those little bitty extra scenes, Witcher 3 is still a complete story. Before I even downloaded a single story update or one of the extra DLC, like free DLC missions that you can do, that was a complete story worthy of $60. Final Fantasy 15 is not. When you look at just what's on the disc, it sucks. Final Fantasy 15 sucks as a story. And Square Enix just can't let it go, and it just irritates the shit out of me. And look, if you are a big Final Fantasy 15 fan, like when it first came out, because like a lot of people really loved it when it came out, and almost like to my jealousy, like I'm jealous of the fucking people that loved it. Like, I wish I could love it, but there are so many things about it that I can't stand that just prevent me from liking it, let alone loving it. But Square Enix just can't let it go. Square Enix just has to keep adding more shit into Final Fantasy 15, and and everything like outside of the main game, I feel like should be in the game itself, or at least compacted in a way that tells a much larger, grander story. Like that Kingsglaive movie, that should have never existed. That should have been like an hour prologue at the beginning of Final Fantasy 15 where you play as the dad and you see his death like on screen. And then later on in the game you fight the guy that killed your dad. Like that's basic shit. But no, you gotta go watch a fucking movie to understand what happened to his dad. Thanks. You got the anime that has like really interesting little bits of story that could have been great flashbacks if they had put them in the game. Not goddamn anime. Not an anime, even though the anime is really good. We need to see things like the death of Noctis's mother in the game. We need to see things like the beginning of like the friendship with all these guys in the game. We need to see why Prompto wants to go meet Luna in order to fucking see that dog. We need to understand why he wants to go see the dog that Luna owns. It's like, it's ridiculous. Like, all this shit is on the side, and it's there in the Final Fantasy 15 universe. But the only fucking thing about the Final Fantasy 15 universe that I give two shits about is Final Fantasy 15, the actual game. And it's not there. It's this skeleton of a story. Every time. And there are just such simple things they could have done too, just to change the story. Like I said earlier, put out like an hour prologue in it where you play as Noctis' dad. Get emotionally invested in that. Watch him die. There you go. They've done it before. Final Fantasy 12. You play as the older brother of the main character before he gets killed. There you go. You see his death, you understand what the stakes are. Boom. Simple shit. They could have done that for Final Fantasy 15. When you finally get to Altissia and you meet up with Lady Lunafreda, maybe go on a date with her. You know that Moogle festival that was like a limited time thing, like downloading the console version? That should have been like a day in the game, like in the main game. That should have been, hey, let's go on a date. Like I'm Noctis, you're Luna. We haven't seen each other in years. Let's go on a date. Let's allow the audience to feel the potential love and friendship and companionship between Noctis and Luna. But no, all we get are flashbacks that mean absolutely nothing, a brief bit where they stare at one another, and then a bit where she dies and like passes the ring to him metaphysically or whatever. Lunafreda is like one of the biggest wastes of potential in this game. A tragic character that I think is just written so fucking poorly. Like, they try to make her the new Aerith. She ain't fucking Aerith. Like, when Arden stabs her, I was just like, really? Like, we're going with that? I barely even know who the fuck she is as a person. And yet there she is getting stabbed by the main villain like it was fucking Sephiroth again. Sephiroth and Aerith again. It's ridiculous. Just simple stuff. Simple things. And yet, it just doesn't fucking work. It's not here in the fucking game. Just so frustrating. I'm sorry. Like, it's blows my mind that they just can't do simple shit. And the final point that I'll make is that Square Enix, like, actually no, let's keep going with this, because Square Enix is just starting to get into like the ridiculous thing. It's like, well, we need to release these games. We need to put more stuff in because we need more money. And yet they're doing all these brand deals with fucking Cup Noodle and all the cringy ass fucking shit. Cup Noodle mission that's in the main game, and then now you get to unlock a Cup Noodle helmet you can wear. Now they're doing shit with Assassin's Creed, which Ubisoft and Square Enix are just like spunking money onto each other's tits. And you've got EA getting into bed. It's now a fucking commercial orgy. You've got like a big orgy between Square Enix, Valve, EA, and Ubisoft. They're just circle jerking each other off and spunking money onto each other. That's what they're doing with this like Half-Life shit. And fuck you, Valve. Fuck you. You can't do Half-Life 3, and yet you can do a fucking Half-Life brand sponsorship with Final Fantasy 15. Fuck you. Get fucked. EA. Why is EA even coming close to Square Enix? Why is Square Enix, if they gave two shits about their products, if they had such passion and pride with them, why would they even come close to letting the ugly, wretched spoos of EA just slip into their little fingertips? It's gross. It just makes me sick thinking about EA, their properties being near Square Enix. That's like if fucking Battlefield entered goddamn Kingdom Hearts or something. Don't fucking do that, Square Enix. I know you like money. Don't fucking do that. I better not see any EA shit near Kingdom Hearts 3. Don't you fucking do it. So, That's just ridiculous. This whole thing of, oh, look, this is so expensive to make, and yet let's do all these brand deals that are gonna make us a fuckload of money. It's like, I see just such a hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of, oh, games are expensive to make. Games are too expensive. We have to do more live services, more games as service. And yet, let's just shove all these brand deals into Final Fantasy 15. Let's completely take it out of the fantasy and throw in this shit. Just throw in, like, and I think there's like a new report now that they're adding like Microsoft Excel decal to the car, and they're adding in like just ridiculous stuff like that. It's just like something like Minesweeper related. It's crazy. It's just crazy how much of a commercial orgy Final Fantasy 15 has become. Like, it just doesn't feel passionate to me. Like, say what you will about Tetsuya Nomura, say what you will about the Kingdom Hearts series, but like, and those are commercial orgies where those are like, you know, Disney, Final Fantasy, Disney. It's like a promotion for these Disney stuff, but there is a well-told story there. There is characters that you like. There's Tetsuya Nomura who knows how to make a good game. And I don't see that with Hajime Tabata in Final Fantasy. Like, I don't want Hajime Tabata. I know he's been given the keys to the kingdom to do whatever the fuck he wants with Final Fantasy now, because Final Fantasy 15 was a success, but it's like, I don't want him anywhere near Final Fantasy 16. I don't want him anywhere near the board of directors that are making decisions for Final Fantasy. Get that man away from Final Fantasy. Put him to work on something else. Put him to work on like a new IP or something. Get him away from Final Fantasy. And don't do this thing where they have to stretch out the development process for Final Fantasy 16, where it's going to turn this whole nother situation, this whole 10-year struggle once again, to have it come out and just have it be a big fucking flop, like a big disappointment in my head. Because that's what Final Fantasy 15 is. It's just a big fucking waste of potential. Such an enormous, heartbreaking disappointment. To me, at least. Like, I know it has its fans. I know people are like, oh, I'm so excited for the 4 new episodes. Well, I'm not, because that's just like twisting the knife into me. Final Fantasy 15 just like stabbed me, and now like all these little DLC packs that have all the shit that I wanted from the main game is like twisting it ever so slightly, just to reopen the wounds. I guess the point that I want to say with this is, fuck Final Fantasy 15. Fuck the game. Fuck what it's become. Fuck Square Enix for not letting that shit go. At the same time, taking advantage of it, milking it for every fucking penny that they can get out of it. Just let it die. Let it go. Let it go and go back into the back seats of people's minds with some fucking dignity. Stop dragging it through all these brand deals and shit. It's absurd. It is ridiculous. Like, Persona 5 is fantastic. Horizon Zero Dawn is fantastic. But those games got their DLC, and now they're done. Like gone. You hear from them as far as like sales go, and they're selling marvelously, but it's like, Sony has let that go. Atlas has let that go. CD Projekt Red has let Witcher 3 go. Let it go, Square Enix. Just stop taking advantage of Final Fantasy 15. I know you're not going to, because you've already announced 4 more DLC packs until 2019. So I'm going to be seeing fucking headlines for it everywhere. There's going to be all these new brand deals and everything. It's going to be ridiculous. Fuck. That just makes me more nervous for Kingdom Hearts 3. It really does. Like, I know everyone's like, well, Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy have different development teams and blah blah blah, but they're under the same umbrella, and that umbrella right now likes to take in as much shit as it can, and I'm really concerned about the DLC practices that are going to be for Final Fantasy, for Kingdom Hearts 3. surprised they haven't added microtransactions to Final Fantasy 15 yet. I really am. Like I think there could be in Comrades. I was like 100% convinced that they were gonna add microtransactions to it. And that was gonna be a whole nother video about that, but they didn't, which, you know, at least that's one thing Square Enix got right. Kudos to them for that, I guess. Anywho, make a long story short, fuck Final Fantasy 15. Square Enix needs to let that shit go. Bye!